Real Health Transformations is a podcast for the woman I once was and the woman I'm still becoming. It's for the new mom trusting her instincts, the seasoned mom questioning the science, and the party girl ready to trade Sunday scaries for sourdough starters. It's for the woman who's wrestled with weight, trauma, chronic illness, and the struggle to find balance in motherhood, career, and life. I'm your host, Holly Mullen, a functional wellness practitioner and holistic real estate specialist. You are the expert on your body, and this show is here to help you cut through the BS, connect the dots between your health and your home, and find simple strategies that actually work for you. We'll have real conversations that matter, challenge the status quo, and keep it simple. If you're craving a calmer home, a clearer mind, or a healthier body, you're in the right place for real solutions, real encouragement, and real transformation. Hello. Welcome to Real Health Transformations. Thank you for being here. Today on the show, I want to take you on a journey. The journey today will be exploring a hot topic, one I'm seeing a lot of online, social media, blogs, articles, and that is the connection between our minds and bodies and how understanding this relationship can transform our approach to health and healing. Since this is a discussion about beliefs and mindset, I want to sincerely, from my heart, invite you to approach this episode with an open mind. You might be thinking, yeah, open mind, whatever. But here's the deal. There are countless resources, other podcasts on this topic of mindset, subconscious beliefs. You've no doubt listened to one or two, maybe more, but how many have you really listened to? Listened and then taken action on or applied what you have learned. Our brains do this funny thing when we're presented with a familiar topic or when we start to hear something we've heard before or there's discussion on a topic we think we already know. And that funny thing is we tune it out. And not because our brains don't care, because you may very well genuinely be interested in listening to the info, but our brain is very smart. It's always conserving its energy, resources, focus. So if it can find the easy button, it's going to smash it. There's a shortcut there. It's going to want to take it. This has a name. I didn't make it up. It's called cognitive efficiency, and the brain is wired for efficiency, and it tends to conserve energy by creating these mental shortcuts. So when it encounters familiar information, it likes to rely on existing knowledge structures or schemas rather than processing new information in depth. It's like, oh, I know this. I've got this. Don't worry. Predictive coding, it's similar. It's when the brain predicts incoming information based on past experiences or based on past information that it's heard before. So when it encounters that familiar topic again, it might just quickly match this new information with predictions. So it can reduce the attention it's giving to that. It can put less effort into listening because it has other important things to do, like keeping you alive, right? So for today's chat, I just want you to make yourself present in the moment and maybe approach today's topic with a beginner's mindset. I've listened to a lot of podcasts on this subject, and I can tell you that very few come at it from the angle that I'm going to today. So there's a good chance that maybe you have not heard this topic quite in the way that I'm about to present it. And that may be because, fun fact, drum roll, did you know that I'm also a certified self-sabotage coach? It's true. It wasn't long after I started working as an FNTP that I realized, for the most part, It's not true for everyone, but for the most part, people know what they need to do to be healthy. They know, yeah, I should eat real foods, drink water, exercise, get rest, yada, yada. But notice the alarming difference in people who know what to do and those who actually do the do's. Knowing and doing are not the same. Knowing doesn't necessarily translate into implementing. And the reasons for this often have to do with behavioral and psychological factors. It's our subconscious programming, if you will. And it turns out it's our subconscious that runs the show. It's not our awake, rational, conscious brains. The subconscious determines our behavior, our habits, our patterns, the such. And this, my friends, is the topic we're going to dive into today. The subconscious, the mindset, with a hint of overcoming self-sabotage. So stick with me through this because I'm going to wrap it up with a personal story about my own experience, keeping it 100 on the real with y'all about the role my own self-sabotage and subconscious played in my most recent health challenge, specifically how my beliefs around autoimmune, living in mold, perimenopause symptoms all got me to the unhealthiest state I've ever been in, and the mindset shifts that had to happen. They had to happen for me to be able to change basically my stinking thinking. It was the only thing that was able to finally bring about change, symptom relief, and healing to get me to where I am now. And I also have a free gift for you at the end. No strings attached, guys. But it's something that could help you in this area if you want to deep dive a little bit on your own into your subconscious and explore maybe some mindset blocks that you may have. So, all right, let's rock and roll. Let me pull up some notes. All right, we're going to start with the mind-body connection. Our thoughts and beliefs, they have a powerful influence on our physical health. A positive mindset and self-belief are critical for achieving and sustaining wellness. And it's not just about thinking happy thoughts about rainbows and puppies and butterflies. And it's not gaslighting yourself with positivity. That's not what I'm saying. But it's about like this deep understanding that our mental state directly can have an impact on our physical well-being. And we've heard that famous Henry Ford quote, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." And that demonstrates the power of the mind and belief. My kids, they're sleeping right now, but I can hear them rolling their eyes just for me saying that line. But another well-known saying, where the mind goes, the body follows, that actually has scriptural roots in Proverbs 23, but it's another demonstration of this known, understood mind-body connection. Like, we can't separate the two. It all goes back into like our beginning conversations in the show about how we cannot compartmentalize this body unit. It is one. But what drives our mindset, our thoughts, our beliefs, that is where the subconscious comes in. The subconscious mind plays a critical role in shaping our beliefs and behaviors, and it controls 95 to 99% of our behavior and biological functions. So understanding how it works can provide insight into why we act the way we do. Flip side, it could also help us understand, if we understand how the subconscious works, it can also help us change deep-seated patterns to improve our health and well-being. In early development, from birth to around 7 years old, our brain operates primarily in what's called a theta state. This is similar to a state of hypnosis. And during this time, we are highly impressionable and we're able to absorb information from our environment. We're forming our foundational beliefs that are going to then guide our thoughts and behaviors and into adulthood. And we learn 50% of our behavior before we're the age of 5. And it's the subconscious that formulates these ideas and beliefs, behaviors, speech patterns, etc. And the beliefs that we form during this period are often based on the behaviors and the attitudes, the words of our parents or caregivers and our immediate environment during this time. So pause for a moment here and think about how the early development environment has changed for children in the last 20 years, or compared to how you grew up. If you are picturing a lot of devices and screen time, you're following where I'm going with this. We're tracking. So bookmark this in your brain, this modern developmental image, because we're going to come back to it. The subconscious, it's a survival mechanism. Our subconscious mind is a miraculously designed survival tool, and its primary goal is to keep us safe and secure, which often means conforming to the norms and behaviors of our tribe. I'm doing tribe in finger air quotes. And for most people, tribe is the family unit, but tribe can also be like any group of people that you are surrounded and influenced by. It could be the group of people you identify as belonging to. This tribal belonging mechanism ensures that we stay accepted and protected within our social circles. In ancestral days, not having a tribe equaled certain death. So I don't know why I laughed just there. I was picturing trolls. Just never mind. Our primal brains are wired for tribal connection. And no matter how independent we become or we think we are, if we think back to the pandemic and isolation and lockdowns, those were incredibly damaging. The physical, the mental health impacts that we know of are staggeringly damaging. The long-term ramifications of that isolation period are TBD. That's how important this tribal aspect is, this connection is to our, not only to just like our health, but literally our survival. Our subconscious is tasked with the job of keeping us alive. Hey, big job here. It is the safety police. It continuously is scanning our environment and surroundings for patterns. It's creating automatic responses to avoid danger and conflict. So let's hang out here for a little bit because this is really important to understanding our behaviors and habits, especially those habits or patterns that we want to break or we want to change, but we seemingly can't. Like the things that we try, fail, repeat, that cycle that in this health space, a lot of people seem to be stuck in when it comes to eating healthfully, diet, exercise, all those things. So we have our subconscious keeping us safe by making sure we have a tribe and by always running a scan of our surroundings. Like a computer can be running an antivirus scan, looking for threats, searching files and folders in the background while we carry on with work or online shopping or whatever we're doing online. That's what our subconscious is doing in the background while we are living our lives. To fit in with our tribe, we must be like our tribe. We have to be similar or have some sort of bond that ties. As children, we learn by copying, mimicking, and repeating what our parents do or what our caregivers do. Whoever is the influential tribal leader, usually is parents, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's older siblings, other family members, but you get the point. Here's an example. If you've ever been around a toddler or an older baby learning to walk, or maybe like a new walker, and they fall down and they kind of look around the room and they're gauging the faces and reactions so they know how to respond to what just happened. And if you act alarmed and rush over and you're like, oh, are you okay? They start to cry. But if you clap and cheer and you're like, yay, good job, you're learning, you're trying, or whatever, they smile and they get up and they carry on. That is what I'm talking about here. They are learning how to respond to the situation and their environment by the people around them. And our subconscious needs to repeat, copy, mirror, and emulate the actions of whatever it sees through the eyes, what it's hearing through our ears. This is how we learn language and accents and, our basic human stuff. The more repetitive the thoughts, the actions, or ideas that are observed through our senses, the more the subconscious knows that those behaviors that are observed are classified as the safe things to do. Fitting in is safe. Copying observed behaviors and communication is safe. If you grow up in a home where every Friday night it's beer and pizza, that is a learned behavior of something that is safe. This is what I do. This is what my tribe does. Just a very basic example. So again, I know I kind of like hit on that a lot, but it's just critical to understand this fundamental wiring before we can get to some of these bigger things. To our primal brain, standing out means potential tribal judgment, conflict. 10,000 years ago, not doing what everyone else was doing literally could get you killed by outside threats or even by the tribe itself, which counted on everyone doing what they were supposed to do in order to keep the entire tribe safe. A tribal member who stands out is a potential threat because unusual behavior can draw unwanted negative attention and put the entire tribe in danger. I trust you guys get this. So now let's take this concept of our primal brain, our subconscious, and take our understanding of why it's important that we are wired for tribal connection and acceptance, and how our subconscious is only concerned about our safety. And it keeps us safe by automating learned behaviors to be repeated by what is observed from what it's continuously scanning from our environments. Okay? We take that concept, we take us out of our ancestral tribal times, we put us in today's world. Here we are. Think about who is in your tribe. Is it family? Is it the people who raised you? Friends? Who and what is influencing you today? When our subconscious is continually scanning our environment with the only purpose and care of keeping us safe, what are the behaviors, the messages, the images repeatedly presented in your world? Food for thought. Let's move on to how the subconscious beliefs influence our behavior. We're going to talk about automatic responses, emotional responses, and our perception of reality. Once a belief is embedded in the subconscious, it triggers automatic responses without the need for conscious thought. This is why habits and patterns, both positive and negative, can be difficult to change because the subconscious is just automatically doing them. For example, if someone believes that they are not good enough, and this can be a belief formed in childhood. If a child frequently receives criticism or feels compared unfavorably to others, they may internalize that belief that they are inherently flawed or inadequate. They might subconsciously sabotage their efforts to succeed to avoid that perceived pain of failure or rejection. So that's like an automatic response. We might not know where our responses are coming from, but it has like a root somewhere, and it's usually in that early childhood era. Our emotions can also be rooted in subconscious beliefs. When we encounter a situation that aligns with a subconscious belief, it can trigger an emotional response. There are so many people emotionally triggered online today. For instance, not even online, dude, just in life, people are triggered. For instance, if we subconsciously believe that we are unworthy of love, we might feel anxiety or sadness in relationships, even if a partner treats us well. If a child receives more attention and care when they are sick, they might subconsciously believe that being unwell is a way to gain love and attention. There's a common phenomenon where siblings or relatives of chronically ill individuals develop illnesses, either real or imaginary, as a way to gain love and attention. It's known as identification or sympathy sickness, something like that. But these individuals, they learn that illness is a way to gain a parent's attention or the tribe leader's attention and care, and it can lead to a subconscious manifestation of symptoms. Like, that is how powerful our subconscious is and how closely connected our mind and body are. The other thing is perception of reality, and the subconscious, it really does shape our perception of reality. You and I don't necessarily see things the same way because of our environments, how we grew up, and our experiences. If we hold the belief that the world is a dangerous place, we will constantly be on alert for threats, even when none exist. Alternatively, if we believe that the world is full of opportunities, we are more likely to notice and seize them. How about this one? If we hold the belief that our food system is poisonous and nothing is safe to eat and plants are trying to kill us, we will have anxiety around meals and eating. There will be consequences with this mindset. Chronic stress, anxiety around food, that can lead to physical symptoms, starting with digestive issues. For one, that can be irritable bowel syndrome, nausea, loss of appetite. We might become overly obsessive about food sourcing, preparation, consumption, spending excessive time and energy to ensure that our food is safe. I see this happening with some circles, some tribes, I guess we can say, online. There is definitely a fear tribe culture in the holistic health space right now, and it is not heading in a good direction. I will just leave that there. But all of this demonstrates the power of the subconscious mind and our mindset. Another thing, our subconscious cannot differentiate between reality and fiction. So whether our environment is real life, the natural world, or whether it's the TV, a movie, computer, or phone screen, the subconscious does not know the difference. Our conscious brain knows we're watching a movie. I know, hey, I'm sitting here, I'm watching Netflix. Our subconscious brain does not know that we are not real life friends with Monica and Rachel and Ross and Chandler after binge watching 236 episodes, which is 87 hours of Friends over summer vacation. I'm not a Friends person. I honestly had to look that up for this episode because I was trying to think of a show that runs a long time. So there. I have seen the show. I am not a Friends binge watcher, but you get my point. So let's rewind and go back to the visual exercise of imagining the modern world and the tribe we belong to today in where we are. Let's look at our kids today. Like, generally speaking, I'm speaking in generalities right now. And I know I try to avoid generalities, but for this topic, we've got to. Are the kids today, are they out in the natural world Are they on screens? What type of tribal environment are people you know, other adults, what are they living in today? I can tell you, I know that when my kids have been on screens for too long, especially my younger one, if he gets a hold of YouTube, which is not allowed, he has like a couple approved YouTubers he's allowed to watch, but sometimes he goes rogue. And I can tell when he does because his behavior changes, the way he talks changes. That is literally this in action. So just putting that little nugget in there for you to think about. Because if we're thinking about health specifically, what messages, sorry, I'm doing a little pivot now. Same concept, different topic. Thinking of health specifically, think of what messages and images of health are predominantly portrayed, displayed, marketed out in our world today. And how might our subconscious minds be interpreting this modern tribe and influencing our behavior to fit in the crowd? Because remember, our brain doesn't necessarily know the difference between what it is seeing out in social media, in magazines, in the world around us, because our tribal boundaries are so big. So we are getting a lot of influence, and our brain does not know the difference. So we might not be having these influences in our face all the time in our home, unless you're a big TV house, a big computer, social media, screen time house. But that doesn't mean, even if you're not having it in your home, that doesn't mean that this is not influencing you outside the home, because it is everywhere around us. So I wanted to share that. A significant example for me is this rise in popularity of mommy wine culture. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying a glass of wine, the glorification of moms needing wine to just deal with their kids is hard to escape. And as a mom, I've had my share of days where, I look forward to 5 o'clock, but I'm not a Puritan. But I can't help but wonder if the whole bad moms vibe is perpetuated by the alcohol industry, with the marketing department's understanding of the influential power of this repetitive messaging and understanding how the subconscious works. People in marketing who are good at marketing understand this subconscious mechanism in our brain. You can see this perfect example, this exact thing with the cigarette industry. And it was not fashionable for women to smoke before 1929. But then Edward Bernays, if you don't know who that is, he is coined the father of PR. He was hired by Lucky Strike cigarettes, and he orchestrated this highly visible PR stunt, and it appealed to the feminist movement and the women's right to vote, all with a cigarette, because the cigarette industry realized they were not getting any market share from women because women weren't smoking. So this guy came in with this brilliant marketing strategy. Look up Torches of Freedom and see how easy it is to manipulate, influence tribal behavior. I'll actually put a link to a little YouTube video that shows it. It's pretty fascinating. So you can find that in the show notes. Anyways, we are no longer hunter-gatherers living in the wild amongst nature, although a lot of people are returning back to that, living off-grid, becoming nomads. But our brains and our DNA have not changed or evolved, our world does not look anything like it looked at the time our divine master creator spoke us into existence, right? So let's kind of take this in another direction here. Understanding how the subconscious mind influences our behaviors and beliefs, it's critical for making these meaningful changes in our lives when it comes to health. But our subconscious can also hold us back, especially when we identify strongly with an illness or if we adopt unhealthy societal norms around health. But there's another layer to consider when it comes to healing, and that is upstream stressors. I talk a lot about upstream stressors in an earlier episode. I will link that up if you need to go back and refresh on that. But just as our subconscious can be influenced by the messages we receive from our environment, our physical health can be profoundly influenced and affected by hidden stressors like mold, heavy metals, unresolved emotional trauma. These stressors and stress of all kind can significantly impact our ability to heal. There's no denying that, because what these stressors do is they create this backdrop of chronic stress, which can derail even just the most diligent health efforts. And addressing these stressors, it can be crucial, and they can kind of be like the linchpin. Like sometimes they lie at the root of many chronic health issues. So they're important to address. A good example would be living in a moldy environment. This can trigger inflammation and carrying the burden of unresolved emotional trauma that can keep the nervous system in a state of perpetual fight or flight. Chronic inflammation, so like back to the mold, like the inflammation triggered by being in a moldy environment, that chronic inflammation, that also is going to keep our nervous system in fight or flight. So even though they're two different things, they're doing the same thing, and that is keeping us from healing. It's a barrier. So removing those stressors, that can be really beneficial and profound in terms of relief and setting the stage for like genuine healing. As a root cause practitioner, I understand that it's essential to identify and address these hidden stressors. However, it's equally important to maintain balance and perspective. And totally a side rant here, can I just share a red flag warning sign with some of you? If you are someone actively looking for a practitioner to work with, or if you are working with someone like this, okay, every single one of us could probably sit down and make a list of past traumas, chemical exposures, heavy metal exposures, mercury fillings, toxins, parasites, living in mold, broken bones, surgeries, antibiotic use, birth control, long lists of things that are stressors to the body that cause a cascade of other health consequences. These are all things that are filling up our upstream stressor list, our stress bucket in our body. Having a long list does not mean your root cause is the entire list. Having a list of 20 potential root causes does not mean you need to tackle 20 different protocols to power through. No. That is not root cause functional health. That is throwing spaghetti at the wall. And if you're having someone like that trying to work with you, it's a red flag. You're being taken advantage of. That is my side rant, and I will get off my soapbox now. All right, the journey. Oh gosh, guys, we're still on this journey. Okay, we're getting close. I'm going to wrap this up here. We are on the way. I'm almost, well, Now I still have more. Okay. The journey to optimal health. Okay. Physical, the mental, the mind, the body. It should not turn into this obsessive quest, constantly searching for new stressors to eliminate. This hypervigilance can itself become a source of stress, keeping you trapped in this cycle of anxiety and fear. I see people in the health space capitalizing on this fear to sell you programs and products and promises. And I can't tell you how many clients I have and people that I talk to that have been burned by internet gurus and doctors preying on the vulnerabilities of like sick and desperate people, really, people that just want answers, and they've tried everything and they've been everywhere, and they're just victims to this fear-based selling, and I'm sick of it. So anyways, if you don't believe your body can heal, it won't. If you can't see yourself well or at your goal, you won't get there. Now, I don't like to speak negativity, but that's just how it is. You have to be able to see it for yourself to get there. And I know this because I see it in my clients all the time, and they say they want it, but they really have a hard time actually imagining that they'll ever get there. You have to see it. You have to believe it. Your body is designed to heal. It is my genuine, sincere hope that this knowledge of how the subconscious operates allows you to approach this aspect of your health journey with a mindset of resilience and support. I hope it kind of helps shift things mentally for you. Because one of the biggest hurdles in health is identifying too strongly with our symptoms or our illness. When we see ourselves as victims of our circumstance, we hinder our progress. Shifting from victim mentality to empowering ourselves as proactive participants in our health journey is an essential piece of the puzzle. And we need to redefine our identity not by our ailments, but by our strengths and by our resilience. And if you identify with your illness as your tribe, or if your community of people are a lot of other people with the same illness, how does that help or hinder your healing capacity? Knowing what we know about how the subconscious operates. I see this a lot with my moldies. They call themselves moldies. They identify as moldies. There's also limeys. If you fall into the category of one of those, is that a tribe that you are identifying as? And is that a camp that you are hanging out in? Like, I know that's not where you want to be, but has your mind set up camp there? Because that is where your tribe lives. You see what I'm saying? Just something to think about. Does this identification and community support or reinforce a victim mentality, or can it be transformed into a source of empowerment and collective resilience? And I'm not picking on my limeys or my moldies. I actually see some very unhealthy things in a fasting group that I'm in. Oh my gosh, the most disordered eating. So it's everywhere. So look at be beyond food. Like, look at the groups that you are a part of. Yeah, even beyond health. Like, look at organizations that you're a part of, or other things that you are interested in. And like, if you think of yourself as like, I don't know, it's like people who are Trumpers. I'm not a Trumper, but that is a strong identity that people have. It's like, what does that entail? Right? So, some nuggets to chew on, some thought nuggets there for you. All right, I want to share a little bit of my story because I recently had to question some of my own beliefs and challenge some of the thinking I had around my own health. Backstory, I am very, very certain I had undiagnosed gestational diabetes with my second son. I had an 11-pound baby. I'm not a big person. My husband's not a big person. 11-pound baby, guys, come on. I also have a history of prediabetes and insulin resistance, so it makes sense. It makes sense. But I've been some sort of like low carb keto off and on since 98, 99-ish. I'm going to give like a really short, glossy version of this backstory. I started putting on weight in 2020. Shocker. I know a lot of people did, but I had some major life changes after that, which are stories for another time. But in 22, 23, weight really started packing on for me, and I hit my all-time highest weight and my unhealthiest in 2023. I did some detox programs over like between 22, 23. We moved from mold in 2021, and I thought, well, this makes sense that I started gaining weight in that house because mold can cause weight gain and weight loss resistance. The weight kept coming on. And then my period became irregular and hot flashes and night sweats started. So I was like, oh, hello, perimenopause. I'm 43. That's why that's my problem right there. I hit my all-time high weight and lowest point mentally, and I knew things had to change. I had to question what I was doing. I had to look at myself as if I were one of my clients, and I had to take an honest look at the full picture. I had to ask myself, okay, was my blood sugar, mold, toxic load, changing hormones, are those real issue? Yes, those are real things. Was I using them as an excuse to explain why I wasn't properly taking care of myself? Also, yes. All the while, I was dancing around the issue. I'm doing labs, I'm trying supplements, I'm doing little protocols, blaming my situation on these other things. I was avoiding the hard stuff. I wasn't looking at my habits around diet and exercise and lifestyle. I was using my hormones as an excuse for eating more carbs. Women need carbs. Women shouldn't do intermittent fasting or fasting. Women in perimenopause shouldn't fast. Hormones need carbs. How loud is that messaging online right now? It's deafening. Deafening. That might be true for some people. That might be true for a lot of women. Was it true for me? Is it true for me? Heck to the no. Heck to the no. There will be another episode about this coming up. I had been under extreme stress. I experienced a traumatic emotional event in 2021, followed by a move to a new state. My husband's business is still in our old state. He was going back and forth. I was starting my business here in this new state from scratch. I'm building a new life as like a part-time single mom, trying to make new friends and build new relationships and starting everything new in a state where we knew no one. That was real stress. And I built a story around it that I was saying, oh, I can't work out hard because that would be extra stress on my adrenals. Was that true? I don't know, but that was what I was telling myself. We hosted a New Year's Eve party on this last December 2023, and It was at my house. I was late to my own party because I had an emotional breakdown, crying in my room because I was so unhappy with my reflection in the mirror. I hated every dress I put on. I felt absolutely disgusted with myself and in my body. And this, I can probably say this was like my rock bottom in like my health and how I felt and my mental state and where I was. In January, I signed up with a trainer. I ditched my excuses. I stopped lying to myself about my diet and my habits. So here's the truth bomb. Even practitioners, health coaches, we can fall into a trap of limiting beliefs. None of us are immune to this. I almost said the S word, guys. Stuff. None of us are immune to this stuff. We're not immune to making excuses or telling ourselves lies. I'm now down 30 pounds. 7 months later, I'm feeling stronger in mindset than ever. Also more confident as a coach because I've been in those mental pits. I have been in the pits my clients have been in. And this is not the first time. Like I've been here before. This was just the worst that it's been. This journey has been a humbling reminder that I'm not immune to those traps of limiting beliefs and self-deceptions. And the subconscious mind is powerful. It can convince us that we are doing everything right, even when deep down we know we are not. And as I faced my own struggles with weight gain, hormonal changes, and the stress of life's transitions, I had to confront some hard truths. Yes, my health challenges were real. Blood sugar issues, mold exposure, perimenopause, they all play a role, but I was also using them as crutches. They were excuses that kept me from truly taking care of myself. And it wasn't until I forced myself to look in the mirror, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, that I saw the full picture. I had to question those stories I was telling myself and challenge the beliefs that were holding me back and push back those excuses. It's not easy, guys. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable to look at the ugly parts inside you. Especially, I can't even tell you like how much this affected me in my job. Like I felt like such a failure. I felt like a fraud, not a failure, a fraud. But I'm on the other side now. And that's the message I want to leave you with. Challenge your beliefs, especially the ones that limit you. Your subconscious can be your greatest ally or your biggest obstacle, and it's up to you to decide which one it's going to be for you. So if you find yourself stuck or you're feeling like you're doing everything right and you're not seeing the results, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, am I walking my talk? Or am I letting my subconscious write a story that's not serving me? And remember that knowing better doesn't always mean doing better, because knowing and taking action, knowing and implementing don't always go hand in hand. But once we can recognize where we're falling short, then we have the power to change. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And with each choice, with each change, that is a step towards breaking free from those old patterns and creating a new narrative, one where you're in control and you're thriving and you're truly living your healthiest life. All right? So let's wrap this up and tie everything together, put a little bow on it. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the power of our subconscious to how our environment shapes our beliefs. We explored how the subconscious mind is deeply influenced by the anti-health messages of society that bombard us everywhere. These messages can make it challenging to adopt healthier diet and lifestyle changes, especially when such changes are not the norm within our tribe or our social circles. And I have something special for you. I created an exercise called a deep dive into your health beliefs, reflect, assess, and empower your healing transformation. It's designed to help you reflect on the beliefs that have shaped your health journey. You can assess your current tribe and influences that might be affecting you and look at those stories that you might be holding on to and empower yourself to make some positive changes. You can download this exercise for free. It's just a PDF. Click the link in the show notes, and I hope it helps you to take some meaningful steps towards better health and healing. I hope this episode was helpful to you. I will close this out in prayer and send you on your way. Dear God, we thank you for the wisdom and strength you've placed within each of us as we navigate our health journeys to help us recognize the stories and the beliefs that no longer serve us. God, give us the courage to challenge our thoughts and break free from limitations and to step into the fullness of the health and the life that you've intended for us. And may we be guided by your truth and empowered to make choices that align with your will and the well-being of our minds, bodies, and spirits. I pray that you surround us and support us. Just fill us with resilience and help us to trust in that innate healing process that is instilled in us by your design, knowing that with your guidance, we can overcome any obstacle. All we need is just that faith the size of a mustard seed. In your name we pray, amen. All right, I am Holly Mullen of Holly Jean Health, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Real Health Transformations. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to Real Health Transformations. I hope this episode met you where you are and helped you cut through the noise, maybe get a little closer to the real practical solutions you've been looking for. Remember, everything shared here is for education and for inspiration, not medical advice. I am not your doctor. I am a podcast host. I am your encouraging digital friend. Always do what is right for you and consult a trusted healthcare provider before making any big changes. If you loved what you heard today, please subscribe, share with a friend, and let's keep having the conversations that matter without the fluff. Find me on Instagram. Let's keep this conversation going and keep questioning things. Keep finding what works for you. You've got this. I'll see you next time.